Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. This time it's going to be a 2v2 as you can see on not Minsk Pocket. This is actually Rails and Metal. It's of course going to be sent in by Semenescu as you can see, playing as the Wehrmacht. His friend is going to be Lootman as the Wehrmacht as well. So 2 Wehrmacht on this map, definitely pretty useful. And 2 Americans on this side are going to have Duds and Falco d'Argento. Damn, have to overpronounce a name like that. It means silver falcon in Italian. So yeah, I guess he's Italian, and just gonna, not sure, should I call him Falco d'Argento every time? I mean, yeah, with the overpronunciation, the exaggerated pronunciation, I think it's gonna be fun. So I guess I'm just gonna take his side on that, yeah. So Pioneers just kind of go ahead and capture some points. We have the machine gun coming through. We have the Grenadiers, just the usual stuff. Nothing really too strange. Rear echelon troops are going to get into the building. That's probably a nice choice from Falco d'Argento. He's going to be able to come in, of course, with the riflemen as well and get a very, very advantageous position on the enemy squads in the sort of down slope of the rails, which is going to allow him to capture the field point later. Although the machine gun is going to do a lot of damage to these engineers, if the rifleman can come around the machine gun's arc of fire fast enough, I think they might be able to save the rear echelon troops from certain death, but I'm not sure. In the south, we have another bit of an engagement between, well, it's actually just kind of a, they haven't found each other yet, so they're kind of quiet. And yeah, we have the flank coming in from the Grenadiers, so eventually the rear echelons are going to have to retreat. In fact, they might even die. Unfortunately, Falco d'Argento is going to get shot down and crash and burn. And yeah, he's trying to come in to the side, and Semenescu is going to try to get the machine gun into the building, but it's not going to work. He's going to, of course, pull back a little bit. Smart move, then he's going to be able to set up at sort of medium to long range and suppress down those riflemen. And then he can use the Grenadiers to get into the building, but the riflemen do try to get in, and they will probably manage to do so. Unfortunately for them, it will be a little bit too late because they're very, very low, but another rifleman squad, in fact, 2 more rifleman squads are coming in from the rear. The MG42 almost goes down, but it is saved at the last possible second by this Usain Bolt-like sprint by the MG gunner. And the Grenadiers are going to be able to pick off the riflemen quite easily, especially with the help of the building. They're going to be able to push back both Duds and Falco d'Argento's riflemen. In the south, we have Duds trying to put a little bit of pressure against Lootman, but Lootman does have a nice position set up on the VP. He's got a mortar that's starting to bombard the VP sort of building over here, the one that everyone tries to rush after, and it's going quite well for the Germans considering they're winning both sides, although they need to be careful, very, very careful about the center, because if the central area becomes sort of an allied nest, they're going to be able to send the riflemen through on missions to just capture all the points and get some cutoffs. In fact, the Americans are a lot better off on the capping than the Germans. The Germans, as you can see, lagging a little bit behind on resource income because they haven't been able to really cap a whole lot, because it seems like their units have been prioritizing getting good positions to fight rather than actually getting the captures. Although that is happening right now, and so eventually the Germans are going to catch up and probably overtake the Allies on resource income. In the center, the Grenadiers are going to capture the middle VP, but the rear echelon troops are going to come in with the heavy cover. They might even be able to push them back. Another heavy cover rear echelon troop just kind of harassing away at these Pioneers. So 2 REs for Falco d'Argento. He might be thinking of going with the Rifle Company flamethrowers. Yeah, I was thinking that he might have wanted to go with something else, but the Rifle Company flamethrowers might be useful because, of course, they are going to give those rear echelon troops a little bit more of a utility role against buildings and cover and such. And, of course, the rear echelon troops are the ones with the smoke, so that would be quite good to flank. Looks like Semenescu's MG is going to try to set up and help out his ally, which is admirable of him. Although I think that it would have been better for him to keep his MG on his side just to help deal with these enemy units and secure his side of the map rather than unnecessarily divide his micro attention, because now he's going to have to manage both the MG and then pay attention to the other units on the right and left hand side and avoid something like that. As you can see, the grenade wiping out the Pioneers. The Pioneers in fact had a flamer, so that is a pretty bad wipe, even though it was just a Pioneer that is 60 munitions that you know, is going to go down the drain for the Germans. Looks like the Germans, though, finally managing to jump into that coveted building, and they're going to be able to just kind of charge in and take care of the mortar, most likely. At this point, the mortar is trying to get some fire down on the building, but it's not going to be enough. The Grenadiers are close, and the Grenadiers are probably just going to massacre the mortar crew, unless it, of course, retreats. And yeah, just a little bit of a speculative move going on with these riflemen and the mortar, but the mortar here has some backup in the form of these units, and so he's not going to be all that deterred. The Grenadiers are going to come back around and try to deal with the riflemen that have decapped the VP. Of course, 2 MGs on the same spot is going to make it this whole area kind of difficult for enemy infantry to attack. The problem for them is that there's this hedgerow, of course, that's kind of blocking the line of sight of the other MG that's in the building. And then, of course, there's these 2 MGs over here, and the rest of the map is really without any suppression units for the Germans. This is allowing the Allies to recapture the middle and get some flanks off on these Grenadiers. Of course, Seminescu is going for a second machine gun, which is a decent choice. But he does have the Battle Phase 1 and some Pioneers in the base. So you should probably at this point go for the Tier 2 and try to get out maybe a Flame half-track, maybe even a Scout Car would be pretty good. Just overall trying to tech up as quickly as possible to avoid just getting crushed by random light vehicles would be pretty good for him. Let's check out the teching for the Americans. Well, we have a captain. What is he doing? He's going for a captain as well. So Falco d'Argento and Duds, both thinking of maybe Stuarts. Definitely both thinking of tank guns. So that's less likely that we'll be seeing the airborne company for Falco d'Argento. Maybe less likely that we'll see the heavy cavalry company. Maybe. It's not really, you know, it doesn't really work that way. But I'm seeing that one of these players should really go with the tactical support company, because this is a map where generally the long games tend to happen. There's not a lot of opportunities for flanking and such, so you're going to want to have that superiority when it comes to artillery, and so having that tactical support is going to be, in my opinion, more useful than the heavy cavalry. Whereas, I mean, Falco d'Argento could be going for infantry company at this point, considering he did not go with the rifle company. Rifle company is something that you pick almost at the beginning of the game, in my mind, so yeah, we may have the infantry company from Falco d'Argento and then heavy cavalry from Duds. Who knows? Seminescu has Lightning War, Spearhead, and Assault support, so lots of Tigers. And Lootman has Assault support. No, that's actually the Mechanized Assault, Jaeger Armor, and Lightning War. So also a lot of Tigers. Also the Elephant. Also, well, definitely not picking the Mechanized Assault right now because, well, nice dodges, by the way, on these grenades. Some of them have been aimed less than ideally. Some of them have been aimed well, but most of them have been dodged. So well played by this MG. MG trying to get behind some cover or some Grenadiers. I mean, both the same at the end. And the rifle grenade does not really do all that much damage to the riflemen because they escape. In the meantime, it seems like the riflemen are just kind of trying to push through the center, and it's going okay for them. But the problem is, of course, where are the vehicles? I have no idea. Okay, so we do have a half-track that's upgrading those flame projectors, and in the south, the Germans have been able to secure the VP and the fuel point. The north is kind of contested when it comes to the fuel, but the VP is pretty much firmly Allied territory. So where are the Allied vehicles? I have no idea. We have an ambulance for Falco d'Argento, but other than that, no one's used any real meaningful fuel. So it's kind of hard to see why there aren't Stuarts running around right now. But oh well. I mean, the Grenadiers are well on the way to vetting up for Seminescu. So he's in a pretty good spot. He doesn't really need to be doing anything too strange. Although probably should, you know, use less rifle grenades so that he can upgrade the other LMG-42. Lootman has some Panzer Grenadiers and a lot of Grenadiers. He's of course used some of his munitions on the upgrade of the flame projectors. So he's not really as well versed on the Grenadier veterancy because he hasn't had the munitions to upgrade his Grenadiers to LMGs. There's an anti-tank gun on this side for Duds, but it's in a bad spot, and it's also not using prioritized vehicles. So right now, Duds is in a very, very bad shape. He doesn't really hold any territory. He's got a lot of problems with his infantry. He doesn't have any upgrades or any veterancy, so he's losing engagements. And it seems like his positioning needs a little bit of work as well. So that just kind of leaves Falco d'Argento alone on his side. And he's got the 2 rear echelons. I mean, at this point, it seems like he's using them just as a, I don't know, a supportive unit, kind of. Sorry, that's a yawn. And that's a lieutenant. Huh. Back-teching to the lieutenant. I wonder what he's trying to do. I mean, Falco d'Argento right now didn't really need a lieutenant. He might want to go for some machine guns, but he could have just picked the airborne. He might want the 50 cal, or he might just be insane. I mean, I don't see why he would go for a lieutenant right now. It's not like it's going to give him all that much. To be completely honest, he does not need machine guns. The problem that he's having against these enemy units is that they're beating him at long to sort of, long range generally. And of course with the suppression of the MGs. So a little bit of a better use of manpower would have been a mortar. Or a pack howitzer, considering that he of course had the captain. Because it would have helped him deal with the grenadiers by just kind of preventing them from standing still in cover a little bit too long. And it would have been even more useful against the machine guns, of course. And, ooh, nasty grenade, actually, from these riflemen. Almost wipes out both of the squads. They're very, very low on HP. They're taking a lot of damage from these Gorons. The Gorons are blazing away, and they kill one of the squads. Even the MG squad is taking a lot of damage. M1's blazing in, but it's not enough. And here comes a literal blaze in terms of the flame half-track. And that's going to force these infantry units away. The fortress in the south is still pretty much under control of the Axis, so there's really not a lot that the Allies had to repel this flame half-track. The anti-tank gun could not be moved up as much because the Germans were really afraid of enemy infantry units in the area flanking around, and since the anti-tank gun does not really have that much support, these fears are very, very much justified. And it should be pretty careful. Ooh, that's fired with some Sabo rounds, actually. That's definitely a little bit of an over, zealous move. You don't need the Saber rounds to penetrate the half-tracks. But still, the Grenadiers are going to just kind of roll on down and kind of damage these enemy units. But, I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to do too much with the captain in there. Nice grenade, though, is going to do a lot of casualties. And yeah, looks like Falco d'Argento is going to somehow manage to secure the north pretty much fully for himself. He does have a Stuart around, so that's of course going to be pretty difficult for Semenescu to deal with. But Semenescu has expended 500 of his manpower on fuel caches. So a little bit of an investment into the future, and he is going for the battle phase free. So that's going to mean tier 4, heavy Panzer Corps, very, very strong vehicles, especially Brumbear and Panther. So we're going to see Semenescu looking to the late game to really win out against the Allies, whereas his ally down here has just a massive float of manpower. He could probably use a couple of anti-tank guns, to be completely honest. It would be very helpful because you never know what will be coming from the enemy. So having the couple of anti-tank guns is going to be very, very useful in dealing with any vehicles that might come out. And it's not like you're using the manpower anyway. Of course, that is also going to help you in sort of giving you more options. Giving you more options for the later game when you maybe would want to get a Panther normally if you had 0 AT guns. You could do with getting an anti-infantry or versatile unit if you have a couple of anti-tank guns and you're kind of confident that you can repel any enemy vehicles. So it's going to basically help out your late game and definitely help out your mid game. So it's basically both good. Heavy Panzer Corps on the field for Semenescu. He's got a massive reserve of fuel built up from those fuel caches, of course. And of course, right now, he's also managed to capture the fuel point number 2 for his team. So once that is captured, the Germans are going to be so far ahead when it comes to the fuel income. And yeah, he is going for a Brumbear, which is what I would have done in this situation. Although we'll see if that's a good decision. If it does prove a good decision, though, it would be no surprise to me. Huh. Yeah, well, it seems like the Axis are consolidating their positions in the flanks. Looks like, however, these Grenadiers are in trouble. They're gonna get a raid to the face, and that's a lot of damage. They try to retreat, of course. They should be able to do that, because they had managed to get a lot of casualties on the lieutenant. However, they get chased down by the Stuart. There are no anti-tank guns, of course, for Seminescu, but that's because he spent so much manpower on those fuel caches. So it kind of makes sense if you have no manpower to not have AT guns. There goes a rifleman squad, dead from the grenadiers. Stuart is around. What is it going to do? It's going to charge in. Very ballsy. Gets a little bit of a flame lick in response. And here's some vehicles. So P4 for Lootman, and of course, lovely Sturmpanzer for Seminescu. At this point, the Sturmpanzer is going to be very, very strong because it's okay against enemy light vehicles. If it can actually hit the Stuart, it's going to do some damage, and it's going to be very, very strong against that rifleman infantry. So, yep, first round, kill, then another kill with the grenadiers, and as that, the riflemen are down to 2. Then they eat some more 152mm, and then they decide that it's best to go. So this is probably gonna provoke a little bit of an anti-tank arms race buying spree by the Allies. Ooh, however, the Sturmpanzer is in a bad spot. It's taking fire from the anti-tank gun with the saber rounds. It got somehow disabled, I think, by the anti-tank grenades of the rifleman. So here it pops the smoke just at the last possible second. I wonder if this anti-tank gun will try to chase. No, will not, but there are the bazookas from the captain. So this could be pretty bad for the Sturmpanzer. First round does a lot of damage, but it doesn't kill it. The riflemen are bringing in the anti-tank grenades, and the Sherman is coming in to finish it off. So there goes this Brumbear. That's going to be unfortunate for the Germans. Perhaps a little bit of a too aggressive push for the Brumbear. It's going to be pretty bad. And the anti-tank gun with the saber rounds definitely bringing in the firepower. That is why you want those anti-tank guns. And right now the Panzer IV being around is not exactly good for the Panzer IV either, because the Panzer IV itself, against all these anti-tank guns and the Sherman and all of that, will not have an easy time. So, yeah, at this point the tables are kind of starting to turn a little bit more in the favor of the Allies, which is kind of surprising. I mean, well, not really. It's the mid-game. The mid-game is really the realm of the Americans. So if the Americans can use this advantage well, then they're going to be in a good spot. I'm just going to speed it up because it's not like anything too strange is happening. I mean, we have a bit of a push attempt from both sides that's kind of meeting each other. And here comes the first major, it seems. Falco d'Argent. Oh, no, actually, both of these guys have majors. So, well, we're going to start to see some late game for the Allies, especially Jackson's, because, I mean, they know that Seminescu has tier 4, so they need to be pretty careful about Panthers and such. And they should probably be careful about Tigers as well. Of course, Seminescu does have the Tiger. Hindsight is 2020. We know that he could be bringing it out at any moment. But, I mean, the enemy team might have figured out that that's what's happening. They didn't really use anything, so it's either going to be Tigers or Elephants. And to be completely fair, every doctrine the Germans has is either Tigers or, you know, Elephants. And actually, look at the difference in CPs between these two Axis players. The Allies are pretty close to each other, but with the Axis, we have Seminescu very, very much far ahead, whereas Lootman is not doing, you know, as well when it comes to the CPs. That means that Seminescu has been fighting a lot more. As you can see in the damage dealt, Seminescu's at basically 35% more in terms of damage dealt. So that's not exactly the best thing if you're Lootman. He really needs to commit his very, very strong forces a little bit more. Needs to be more aggressive, put on some pressure on the enemy, and avoid his ally getting, you know, completely torn up and having to bear the brunt of the entire fighting. Of course, should probably get out of the negative cover too, by the way. But yeah, these veterancy-free Grenadiers really show how much target practice Seminescu has been getting. With all these Panzer IVs in the area, Lootman has basically local superiority wherever he goes. So, yeah, there goes the Sherman, actually. So, standing in the fire of those 75mm a little bit too long and eventually dies. So, not bad for Lootman. The problem is, once the Allies really start to get out those vehicles, the Panzer IVs aren't going to cut it as well as they would be right now. So he needs to be very, very aggressive right now, or maybe not very aggressive, but he needs to be more aggressive than he is right now, and trying to get as much damage dealt to the enemy as possible in the early game. Looks like the fuel caches for Semenescu are going to get found by all the steward and, you know, captains and such. There goes the captain to a bundle grenade. They're going to try to kill the fuel cache. Almost managed to do that. Grenade comes in, it's not enough to kill the captain. Grenade comes in, it's not enough to kill the Panzer Grenadiers. But the fuel cache survives, and the Pioneers are going to get right on that and repair it. There's some strafing runs coming in, so that's tactical support, and we have the Calliope on the field for duds. That is probably a good decision, because it's going to be just so strong at dealing with, especially Lootman, who has managed to build up quite the blob of infantry. Right now, it seems like the Flame Half-Track is going to try to charge in, but it's going to get completely sniped by the 57mm. And Semenescu's infantry tries to kill the Rifleman. No, just barely. Barely survives. A couple of Panzer IVs will try a nice flank, and he's actually managed to strike the exact gap between these two anti-tank guns. Especially considering that this anti-tank gun was just now repositioning, so this is very lucky, as well as a very good push for Lootman. He's also going to have to be dealing with some, looks like P-47 rocket strafes. The problem with this P-47 rocket strafe is that it's probably going to hit some allied units as well by collateral damage. As you can see, doing quite a bit of damage to the tank gun, although it didn't really do as much as I thought. And right now it seems like the first Panzer IV is going to die to some anti-tank. Not enough munitions. Haha. Because he used the P-47 rocket strafe, he wasn't able to get the anti-tank grenade off on the Panzer IV. And because he wasn't able to get the anti-tank grenade off on the Panzer IV, the P-47 rocket strafe could not kill the Panzer IV. Very unfortunate for Falco d'Argento, who had actually set up the defenses of the whole area better than his ally had. He was in a better position to repel that push than duds. The Calliope, in the meantime, is on the field. It fired. Wait, why are you over here? Hello? What are you doing? Oh well, he's having a picnic. Yeah, I'm not sure what the Calliope fired at. Might be down here. No. Probably here. I see the craters. That's usually where the Calliope fires. It's where there's a lot of craters. Oh well, so it's back to basically licking their wounds, and of course Semenescu has a Tiger. So he's in a very, very good spot, to be completely honest. He's got a very vetted up infantry force. He needs to probably use his allies as, you know, medical bunker, just to get his units healed up. And yeah, that's very, very good for him. Because he's got the veterancy, he's got the quality of the units, he's got the Tiger. At this point, it's pretty much go ahead, go time for him. The only thing that can really ruin his day would be, well, Jackson. Or the Calliope completely destroying the entire blob. But that's not happening because the Calliope fired in the south. So it seems like Semenescu is in a pretty good spot. There goes a Stuart. So the Tiger getting the first kill, but the Tiger took a few shots from the anti-tank gun, so it's going to have to retreat, as is going to be the infantry because of all the suppressing fire. But we have a nice flank coming from the south by Lootman. This time he's actually going to use his infantry to support his tanks, which is going to be fairly deadly to these anti-tank guns if the tanks can deal with this machine gun, which they are not right now. Here comes some grenades. Well done by the, you know, Panzer Grenadiers, but hey, this push could have been a little bit better than what it ended up being. It seems like these Grenadiers are going to try to deal with this anti-tank gun, but they're not shooting at it as it's not dying. And all of the infantry from the Americans is just reinforcing under fire from the base. So this is potentially pretty bad, as these Panzer IVs are both very low. They managed to escape but just a sliver of health, and they're going to be incredibly lucky to survive. In fact, one of them goes down to the anti-tank gun that was nicely repositioned by Falco d'Argento. In the meantime, the Tiger was trying to push up it to help, but it's not going to be in time, as the anti-tank gun now can reposition. Although the Tiger manages to get a nice 88mm plastering shell right into the 50 caliber, and that was not that great for it. However, the 50 cal does, you know, get a little bit of a revenge burst at the Pak 40 in returning. In fact, the Pak 40 dies. and the Pioneers have to repair it, or retrieve it, which is going to mean that the Tiger can't get repaired right now because there's no Pioneers. Looks like we have a bit of a flank coming in from these American infantry units, but it's not really going to be enough. Panzerwerfer on the field for Semenescu, trying to take back the artillery advantage from Mr. Calliope here, although Mr. Calliope has been wasting his barrages, in fact, in such a way that I'm not even sure, you know, Semenescu knows what is actually happening. I'm not even sure Semenescu knows that there's a Calliope. Might have just gone to Panzerwerfer because he thinks it's a good idea. Here comes the Panzerwerfer. In fact, it is a good idea when the enemy is huddled up like this. Here comes a Stuka strike from the Jaeger armor, plus the Panzerwerfer barrage. So, yeah, there were things here. Not clear that there aren't. Counter battery fire, however, coming from the Calliope, so the Panzerwerfer needs to be a little bit careful. If direct hits happen on it, it's gonna die. In fact, direct hits are happening. Lucky as hell, it does survive. Both of these rocket artillery pieces firing at maximum range is not exactly the best idea. They need to be a little bit more aggressive. There goes a rifleman squad, actually. They need to be a little bit more aggressive with how they push up, and ooh, this could be dangerous. All right, gets out. Because if they just fire at maximum range, it's not like they're gonna really kill anything ever. And the reason you bought the artillery piece is to kill things. Of course, ooh, there goes the lieutenant, and there's a, you know, Jackson on the field. So right now the Allies are very, very much loading up on the AT, and oh, these grenadiers, heavily vetted up. They're gonna manage to escape, partially thanks to the smoke of the Tiger. Very, very well done. Yeah, it just seems like, ooh, Panzer IV dead. Oh, that's why he was not building Panzer Force. It's because he was going for the elephant. I'm not sure that this is a good idea, to be completely honest. Because, well, I mean, it's partially because I dislike heavy tank destroyers. Partially because it's not like the Allies have so much when it comes to tanks and such. I mean, they're going for the double Jackson, or rather, Falco d'Argento is going for the double Jackson. There's a third Jackson for duds. So yeah, I guess the elephant is gonna be good against those, but good push actually by this infantry squad or infantry formation. No, why did he mass retreat? He could have just waited until the strafing run was over. Rip. Massive artillery barrage, and that's gonna be on the infantry over there. Manages to suppress some units, but not really anything too major. And there's another Bear on the field for Semenescu. I would have thought that after seeing the Jackson, he would have gone for the Panther. In fact, in my opinion, the Panther would be the better choice. But I can see why he would go for the Bear just to kind of try to deal with, especially these annoying fighting positions, these annoying AT guns. And having just the extra bit of support for the Tiger, it can help with the damage soaking. It can help with, of course, dealing with the anti-tank guns. So it's, I guess, a pretty good choice at this point in the match. Looks like the Germans are going to try to establish a triple cap, and that would be pretty good because, well, 334 VPs left for the Allies and 287 for the Axis. It's pretty close right now. With the triple cap, we have exactly 5 minutes. Well, not really exactly 5 minutes, but mostly 5 minutes to deal with the triple cap. Otherwise, they're gonna lose. It looks like we're gonna have an attempt at a push by these Jacksons, and with three Jacksons, can definitely do a lot of damage against all of this. But with the elephant around, they should be thinking twice about all of this. I mean, they don't know that the elephant is around. Now they do. So they should be retreating. However, the Sturmpanzer decides to push in a little bit too far. Nice smoke, however. That's going to allow it. Oh, the elephant missed again. It's going to allow it to escape, and the Tiger is also taking a lot of damage. So, quite a bit of veterancy earned from these Jacksons in this fight. But overall, it seems like elephants and such are doing okay. I mean, the elephant. Oh, here comes a P-47 rocket strafe, but. Oh, actually, they have the recon run as well, so they see the Tigers. But the strafing run decides to go first for the elephant. One of the planes, however, decides to strafe the two wounded cats, and so the Bear, I mean, the bear is not a cat, but the wounded bear is put down, and the cat escapes. So that's definitely a good usage of 240 munitions. We have massive allied superiority coming through on all sides. Just rockets, strafing runs, recons, just being annoying for the Axis to deal with. However, it was only the Brumbear for Seminescu. Actually, the Tiger's dead as well, so that's not good at all. Not good at all. I wonder what killed that. I'm guessing it was the rocket strafe, but I wasn't expecting the Tiger to be low enough to die from that. Still, that was a massive rocket strafe. For 240, he killed a Brumbear and a Tiger. That is a very, very huge kill. I mean, right now, Seminescu's got nothing left. He's almost got enough fuel to repurchase the Tiger, but he's gonna need to wait a while until he, gets back to where he was, and that's gonna allow the Allies a lot more of a breathing space. In fact, I would say if they hadn't done that, then, hadn't gotten those kills, then they would have been in a very, very bad spot. Very, very bad spot indeed. I don't see how they could have recovered had they not done something like that. Still, the Allies are still at a disadvantage, considering that the enemy have, still a very similar amount of vehicles to them, but they have a much superior infantry force. So, yeah. Although, when it comes to PopCap, the Allies are ahead, probably because of the Jacksons being just so gloriously superior. Boom, boom. Yep, boom, boom. And actually, these machine guns are proving fairly useful for the Allies, despite the fact that I was bashing on them earlier. I mean, I should still be bashing on them. That was a bad idea to go Lieutenant just to get a machine gun. But hey, it did help. And right now, ooh, I wouldn't do that if I were the Allies. This is definitely risky. And the Brumbear slightly misses, which is lucky for the Allies. Yeah, as you can see, the standoff engagement between a Elephant and the Jacksons is just not in the favor of the Allies, so they're going to need to retreat, and a massive swarm of infantry manages to capture the center. Left-hand side, Falco d'Argento still holds the VP, and he's going to go for a AEA half-track. Are you sure about that? I mean, it's not like he's the one that needs to defend against planes. I mean, yes, there could be the fragmentation bombing that you can shoot down and the recon planes. But overall, I don't think that's worth buying an AE half-track at 35 minutes in the game. If he had been facing, like, AT support strafes, I could have seen that, but, And for the Germans, buying an Ostwind right now, I mean, it would be an Ostwind, right? So that's like 100 fuel, right? 100 fuel, no, 90 fuel, sorry. Still, it's basically double what you're paying for on a half-track. So, having that as an AEA unit, I mean, it's very expensive, so I'm not really sure if any of these German players are really even thinking about it. Although, I think a couple of Ostwinds might be a good idea, just to be safe that the P-47s don't really mess you up next time, and just to get the extra bit of anti-infantry to help. Because that never hurts. And right now, it seems like the anti-tank guns from the Allies, though, are being left out in the dirt, as are the Jacksons. So the Panzer Grenadiers can come in and just destroy one of the Jacksons. Brumbear destroys one of the anti-tank guns. Another anti-tank gun, that's actually a machine gun, is thrown about on the battlefield, not really being recaptured. And no harassments have been going on in the south throughout basically this entire game. Seminescu has been a little bit better at attacking in the north than, of course, Duds has been about attacking the south, and that's afforded the Germans a slight VP lead. It's also afforded the Germans a heck of a lot of a lead when it comes to their positioning of units. There goes the fighting position to the shot of the Elephant. It's a little bit insane, but the Elephant now can probably kill this thing. Does it see it, or is it shooting at just... Yeah, it's shooting attack round. Missed. Rip. Hey, the Tiger's back. So, yeah, at this point, with the Tiger being back, I don't see the allies being in a good spot because the tiger can soak up the damage and the elephant can just kind of stand behind and have some target practice. Good target practice for the Eastern Front when he's going to eventually be redeployed there. At this point, ooh, Panzerwerfer 42 rocket launcher. Pretty dangerous. Doesn't really do all that much though. Panzerwerfer hasn't really been doing too much. Although to be completely fucking fair, oh my god, Woodstock, you swear so much. To be completely fair, the M4 Sherman Calliope has been doing even less. It's got 1 kill. This Sherman Calliope has been out on the field for like, what, 20 minutes? Units, let's check it out. Sherman Calliope, right, it's construction. That would be... Why can I not find it? 21 minutes to 38, so 17 minutes. Close. That is 1 kill every 17 minutes. Not exactly the best for a unit that can literally like wipe out entire blobs in one volley, every minute and a half. So if you're doing well with the Calliope at this point, you should at least have like 20-25 kills and a couple of levels of veterancy. But that's kind of annoying. Alright. Grenade comes through, but it's gonna get dodged by the Panzer Grenadiers. Well done. And Triple Cap is actually on the field for the Germans, massacring the Allied infantry with the Panzer Grenadiers. Seminescu has been also able to capture the left-hand side with his Grenadiers. And here comes a Stuka close air support. They realize where it's happening, but it's too late, and the anti-tank gun goes down. Jackson almost dies. Panzerwerfer tries to deal with the advancing infantry, but the advancing infantry is a little bit too quick. However, it's going to get massacred by STG-44 wielding maniac Panzer Grenadiers, who are being supported by right now by the Stupa. The Sturmpanzer are doing quite a bit of damage to just kind of supporting units and soft targets in the whole area. At the same time, the Tiger is in the area and is going to be able to just kind of push in to support. And where's the Elephant? It's still kind of right there. So Seminescu does have quite a lot of resources. He's soon going to be able to kind of add some friends to his nice little group of vehicles. What are the Allies planning? Well, as you can see, they're coming in with a Sherman that's going to be a bit of a suicide move. I'm not sure what it's trying to do. It might be trying to distract the Elephant, but it's not doing a particularly good job at it, considering it's distracting it in the direction of where the other units are anyway. That's kind of not the point of the distraction. And, well, the left-hand side is recaptured by the re-echelons, but that's only because the Tiger is afraid of the, where are they? The Jacksons. The Jacksons, however, are damaged, so if the Tiger were to push in right now, it can't because of the infantry. So, Seminescu, probably a good idea, just kind of keeping his stuff in the back. Sorry. Yeah, so he's just keeping the Tiger in reserve until his Grenadiers and such are back on the field. Well, even with the double cap at this point, it would be 6 minutes until the Allies lose the game. So, yeah, they're going to need to try to do something, and they are. I mean, they're pointing at the captain. It's interesting that the Germans, with their massive floating of manpower, haven't gone for any machine guns to help hold the center and the left-hand side VP. In fact, Lootman could build 2 machine guns and place one in the center and one in the left, and that would be, I feel like, earning them quite a lot of VPs right about now, because the Allies are really relying on like single infantry units pushing in to get the captures on these VPs, because right now their just overall forces are not doing well. So they're really having to rely on the sneaky captures and harassments. And this is not good for these Jacksons. There's going to be some Panzerfausts coming in. Panzerfaust number 1, along with, the damage. How is this guy still alive? He's dead. And the second Panzerfaust missed. That is, yeah, that is not good for Seminescu. But Finally, a bit of a harassment attempt. It's some paratroopers that have landed in the rear of the bunker. The bunker is being kind of plastered by the Sherman. The Sherman is going to be able to destroy the M43, no, not the M43, the MG42 as well. And the paratroopers can capture the point. So finally, a little bit of harassment. Imagine if any of this had been happening earlier. It would have been so good for the Allies. Definitely providing more distractions for the Germans. The Elephant is coming down to deal with the Sherman. Probably a bad idea. And some P-47s are trying to get some damage off on the Stupa. Tiger is going to help support the push of the German infantry. Kind of afraid, of course, of the Jacksons, but with the Panzerschrecks in there, it doesn't really need to be all that afraid and can push in to deal with the A half-track. Fragmentation bombing destroys the anti-tank gun and the MG, thus allowing the Tiger to push in. Although there's a lot of Jacksons in the area, that is because the Jacksons were actually assembling to push up against this Elephant. But the push of the Tigers, or rather the Tiger and the German infantry, is going to definitely delay their schedules a little bit. A little bit of an unexpected meeting with the Tiger. And, well, yeah, Tiger eats a anti-tank grenade, does not take a lot of damage. But Panzerschreck wielding riflemen are definitely a little bit of a dangerous unit. So, of course, once the right side is recaptured, the Germans are really going to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. The Allies are down to 100. So, yeah, the triple cap would be about a minute and a half of holding time in order to win. And on the field, the Allies have nothing. Really nothing. So I'm guessing that there's no chance that they're going to win this anymore. Yep. I'm going to capture the center with the Grenadiers. I'm going to capture the south with more Grenadiers. Yeah, it does not seem that good for the Allies. So what should they have done differently? Well, I would say definitely using the tactical support better, because he only used, you know, some of the M4 Sherman Calliopes. He never really went for the MGs on the riflemen to help deal with the blobs of Germans. And he never really, like, used the Calliopes well. He's used some strafing runs, but the strafing runs are not really the best ability. And the recon runs, I guess he used them fine. Falco d'Argento with the airborne. I mean, good job on the rocket strafe the first time, but the airborne, picking that in the late game does handicap you a little bit compared to the heavy cavalry company. I do wonder if there had been a perching on the field, if this Elephant would have been able to do basically as he did, because he would have had to worry about getting flanked by by pershing. So that would have been pretty bad for him. It would have definitely made the Elephant a lot less effective, as it was worrying about constantly about his flanks, and probably would have been a lot more defensive in his play. And yeah, that's, I think, about it. The rest was all just a very well played sort of strategy by Seminescu and Luthman. Seminescu, with the early fuel caches, secured the resource lead for the Germans, and then the Germans were able to take up fairly quickly to the later stages, especially because Seminescu had a pretty disproportionate amount of the CPs on the Axis side, so he was able to reach the Tiger a lot quicker than perhaps the Allies expected him to. And the Allies tried to counter it with some Jacksons, but in the end the Jacksons were only really a bit of a stopgap because the Germans had the Elephant by then. And so once the Elephant came into the battle, there was nothing the Jacksons could do. And again, it all kind of comes back to, well, what if Duds had been able to get a good rifleman force with the LMG, you know, LMG upgrades in force, and some good Calliope barrages? Probably the German infantry would not have been faring nearly as well as it did, just, you know, earning a lot of veterancy, getting the captures of the points, etc., etc. And that would have pretty much swung the game in the favor of the Allies, because they would have been able to hold the VPs in a lot more of a stable manner, and they would have been able to push up on the enemy rather than the opposite. It would have also given the Allied anti-tank gun wall a lot more of a security sort of setup, because these anti-tank guns were not really ever dealt with by excessive artillery or anything of the sort. They were really dealt with by the German infantry pushing up and kind of just murdering them the old-fashioned way. So at the end, yeah, an Allied infantry superiority would have been very, very, very good for you know, their chances of winning. But overall, there's of course other things that could have happened to help them out. I'm not gonna just sit here and talk about all of them. Anyway, well played to both sides. It was nice and enjoyable. Lots of floating, I would say, is the main problem with the Germans. But other than that, they played pretty well. So I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you soon. I love this camo. And hope you have a good, well, right now it's the evening over here. So I'll go with that. Hope you have a good evening. Dobry wieczór. Just in Russian, to be safe.